So this is my internship at chemscope. My name is Hailey Boyle, and next year I'll be going to the University of South Carolina in the fall. So some things about chemscope, what they do there. They test for asbestos and lead. They travel to different job sites. So if a place like they are doing construction or something, they can go to that site and test, make sure it's okay to break down the walls or whatever, and it's safe to do that. They also teach classes there, so people can go and learn all about it and get certified in testing asbestos and doing that. They also do mold inspections, just everything like that. They also have a drop box at chemscope, so if they can't travel to you, you can travel to them and just bring a little sample of whatever you have and then leave it in the drop box, and they'll test it at the end of the day. A little about my site supervisor. This is Gina Eisensmith. She is the office manager at chemscope. She's been there for over 20 years. She's been there since high school. She has a Bachelor of Science degree in business administration, so she's very qualified for the job. She had a lot to talk about. I chose chemscope because I will be majoring in business in the future, and although it's like a science place, I thought this would be a good place to learn how to manage and operate in a small business type of thing. We learned the behind the scenes, the maintenance and the upkeep of how to keep a small business looking presentable and what goes into it besides just the work you have to do. Before I went in, I didn't really know what to expect. Michaela's sisters had worked there before, and they were doing filing work and shredding papers and documents and stuff, so that's kind of what I expected before going in there. But our actual responsibilities in the office, we would organize the files. So they had, in the shed, there were about probably over 100 huge boxes of files labeled from January 2001 to December 2001, and then January 2002, and they were all out of order, just all in random cabinets or whatever. So we would take them out and put them back in their correct order, so going from January, February, March, so stuff like that. And then a lot of the areas needed cleaning. I don't think they have a cleaner there, so a lot of the things just get left. So we were doing that, organizing a lot of papers and a lot of clutter that was there. We got to do that. Outside the office, we basically cleaned up the presentation of it. So outside there was a bunch of weeds and vines and ropes, all outside. We would dig those up and dig up the ground. We had to learn a process for that. Basically to do that, we would have to pickaxe a branch that was in the ground and then shovel it up, and then and we put soil down, mulch. We went to Home Depot a lot to get supplies for this, and then we got a bunch of flowers. We planted a garden in the front to make it look really nice, which there'll be pictures of. Also, the shed was the paint was all chipping off, so we learned how to maintain something like that too. We had to chip all the paint off the shed and then repaint it. But these just helped us with obviously I didn't know how to plant a garden, but this would be something that I would use in the future, my own house or business if I had one. Here are some pictures. So this is us with our huge bucket of paint from Home Depot, and we were mixing it with a stick. We also got to wear these hazmat suits, as you can see over there. So that, it was really hot that day, so that was a struggle, but it was better than getting the paint all over our clothes. We were wearing N95, so we wouldn't be breathing in the fumes and such. This is me with a big branch that we dug up on day one. That took a while because that was our first one, so we weren't sure how to do it, but yeah. Also, here's what the files looked like, if you can see. There were huge boxes like this. They weren't small, so it was kind of hard. I guess it was captured in this picture when Michaela broke a huge light pipe, shattered everywhere. But we had to vacuum that up, so it was a lot of problem solving, stuff that got thrown at us. This is a bunch of flowers that we bought at Home Depot and mulch, when the car filled up. So yeah. Some of our accomplishments. We were able to learn what goes into the upkeep of a small business, like I said. We learned and experienced tools that I'll need in the real world outside of school. So it was nice to do something. In school, we learn a lot of things that you need for tests and such like this, but this, we got to learn stuff that we will need in the real world, which was nice. We were able to help the employees with stuff that they just didn't have time for and that they never got around to, which we got to do for them. I painted the shed, planted the garden. I took away organizational and work ethic skills because sometimes it would get really hot and really hard to do it, but we just kept going to stay there and get the work done that we needed to do. Some of our challenges that we face, I had a fear of making mistakes because obviously when you're working for somebody else's company, you don't want to mess that up for them and they have to redo it or whatever. So we just would restate what we had to do and made it clear so that that wouldn't happen. We're also on a short timeline. Some days Michaela had softball, so if they had an early bus, we would have to get everything done before she had to be back at law for the bus. So sometimes we were on a time crunch, but it was okay. And also kind of being in the way was a fear. We didn't want to be in the way of the workers when we were inside the office, and we didn't want to be distracting them if we were being too loud because they were still working their normal jobs. Some skills that we used, time management, like I was just talking about, just getting everything done in the time we had. Problem solving, we had to learn how to improvise and find a solution when things didn't go to plan. And a lot of times her dad was upstairs in his office and we were outside by the shed or across the street at the barn, so it wasn't always the most convenient to go find him and ask him for help, so we would just try to figure out the solutions ourselves and work around them. And teamwork, obviously we did this together with a partner, so we learned how to use each other to our advantages and not butt heads or go against each other, so we would just kind of work together, and that was good in that setting. In the future, this experience, it gives me experience in the business world of how things work in a small business, how everybody has their own jobs separately, but collectively they're all kind of working towards the same goal. It'll motivate me to keep working towards having my own business. I want to be in the business field, and if I can have my own business one day, that'll be really cool, and this helped me show that that is something I really do want to do. And I learned real-life skills that I wouldn't have learned otherwise, such as gardening, file organization, and remodeling. My immediate future plans after this internship, graduating high school, obviously, and then I'm going to the University of South Carolina in the fall. I will be majoring in business marketing. I plan to join business clubs there, such as they have business fraternities you can join. That's for girls and boys. And I'm working at Stonebridge over the summer. Any questions? Yes, Gavin?
So you had worked with a co-intern.
Yes, I did.
How was it like working with them?
It was actually, I thought, really beneficial because we got to travel together. It was in North Haven, so we got to travel together, switch off on who got to use gas, but also in projects like painting the shed, and chipping the paint off especially was already very time consuming with the two of us, but with both of us kind of double timing it, it made everything go a little bit quicker, and we got to ask each other for help, ask each other questions. The files were also some of them were very heavy and large. We had to both lift those. A lot of them I wouldn't have been able to lift myself, especially have to raise them up. So I think it was really beneficial working with a partner. Yes?
What was your favorite plant that you gardened?
My favorite plant was probably the lilac because it was my favorite color, and those are supposed to grow really big and make the whole garden look really nice. But we also had these shrubs that immediately looked really nice when we gardened them. But I also have some least favorite plants that died right away. That was sad, but it's a circle of life, so it's okay. We got more, yeah. For the first go around, most of them survived, which is all we could have asked for.
Did you learn anything about yourself in the process? Something new?
Yes, I learned that I don't like painting big areas.
Okay.
Yeah, I also learned that I really do like being in the business field, even though the type of businesses wasn't really my main interest. I learned that just being in that setting with like other employees and figuring out and problem solving on your own is something I want to do in the future.
I think the thing that stuck out to me about owning your own business is like you're responsible for everything. So while you were there, it was like, oh, you have to paint, you have to do the landscape, things that I don't even think I would necessarily think about in owning my own business. You know, like there's all these other
things that go into
you're
it.
responsible for. So I think it's really interesting.
We also clean like they're also into cleaning the bathroom and stuff like that, because if you're not paying people to do it, then you have to do it yourself. So even though we didn't get paid, we still did it. But yeah, we learned about that.
Biggest obstacle?
I think our biggest obstacle was, I would think, just trying to figure out like what we had to do every day when we got there together, because her dad, we wouldn't always see him at first, so we would get there and be like, we could go in the garden again, but we just did that yesterday, so maybe we could try something new, like doing some more of the files or something like that. But it was just hard to like kind of navigate exactly what we were doing so that we got the most out of our experience there.
So I did my internship at West Shore Middle School. My site supervisor was Julie Aliberti. She's a 6th grade English teacher. She also teaches 4 periods of humanities classes, so once every day in their 4-day cycle. I also was lucky enough to work alongside Emily Morse, who is considered a literacy specialist at West Shore. So she helps a lot of kids who have English as a second language, but like I said, she also helps co-teach Julie's English classes. Why I chose this site. So in the fall, I'm planning on attending Providence College, double majoring in elementary and special education. I also work at the Boys and Girls Club, so I work there Monday through Friday during the school year after school. In addition to summer camp, I'm there Monday through Friday as well. I also am usually with the kindergartners, so I'm very used to the younger kids, the way they act, their behaviors, their mannerisms, all that stuff. So I did want to get experience with the older kids because secondary education is something I am considering switching to. So I did just want to get that experience, and if I were to switch to secondary, it would be with a concentration in English. My expectations prior to this internship, so first off, I thought the kids were going to be really annoying, if I'm being completely honest. I just thought they were going to be really obnoxious, but they were actually very well behaved. Like, they listened, they followed all the rules, so that was really cool. I also didn't realize how important the topics that they learn in 6th grade is. So, for example, the main unit that I'm there for and still currently there for, they're learning about social issues, so a lot about racism, immigration, disability, stuff like that. And when I first walked in, that was what they were learning about, and I was like, wow, I didn't realize that they were learning about that kind of stuff at that age. So I think that's really amazing, because when I was in 6th grade, I don't really think I learned about anything that important. I also didn't realize the amount of books I would read in such a short amount of time. I want to say maybe I read 4 or 5, but I flew through them, but they were really great. I just didn't really think I was going to read that many books. I also expected to create closer relationships with the students. Like, based on my experience at the Boys and Girls Club, you know, these kids are very close to me. I know what sports they play. I know if they're part of Girl Scouts or Boy Scouts. I know if they have a baseball game that day or whatever. I know if they won that game. And then these kids, I didn't really get to build that close relationship with them based on the schedule, also based on the amount of days that I had to take off due to senior activities. I just didn't really get that opportunity to build close bonds with them as I had hoped. Some responsibilities I had to do. So my first big responsibility, I'd say, was to help guide their book club conversations. I also read their book club books, so I read Front Desk, Rules, and Save Me a Seat. Those are just some of them. These were all social issue books, like I said. This one was mainly about immigration, this one was about disabilities, and then this one was kind of about immigration, but I'd say more so racism. And they were actually really great books. So reading these books actually helped me guide their conversations, because on the first day I was kind of just thrown in. I would sit and listen to their conversations. I couldn't really help guide them, and just kind of have to nod my head and be like, yep, that sounds good, because I didn't know what they were talking about. But by reading them, I was able to kind of get a better idea, help steer those conversations in the right direction. I also created an online library using this website called Padlet. So in their classroom, they have posters all around the room. The kids created categories for them. So for example, this is books that make you shiver, books that share stories of everyday families, and so on. And they're all hung around the room with the pictures of the book covers. So what Julie had me do was I created an online library for them. I color-coded them by different levels, so it went from easiest to a little bit more challenging. I included the book title, a picture of the cover of the book, as well as a link to the book, including reviews. It also had like different books that say, for example, a student read a book, for example, this one, they could click on that link, and then they could check out other books if they really like that one that are similar to the book they just read. I also felt most hands-on in the humanities class, where my main responsibility was to help them paraphrase their sentences, create concise points for their final presentations, and it was really awesome because I just took humanities, so I was able to use my skills and kind of help them. Some challenges I faced. So my age, I'm obviously not that much older than a sixth grader, and it was clear to see like the different level of respect between me and like Miss Aliberti or Miss Morse, which was fine. Like I wasn't expecting them to treat me like a true teacher, but it was just kind of weird to see that. Dealing with different kinds of students was also another challenge I faced. I think by the end of it, I was pretty good at it. So when I say that, I mean there are quieter students. For example, there was this one girl, she didn't really contribute to the book talk conversation. It was a little bit hard because we were all going around sharing their thoughts, and then when it came to her, she was just kind of quiet. So I had to get a little bit creative, and for example, I just told her that she could pass around her sticky notes just so we could get an idea of her thinking, whereas there are other kids that kind of turned the book club conversation to a bit of an argument. They really wanted to get their point across, so I kind of just had to help reel them in a little bit. So just dealing with the different kinds of students, that was a struggle. Also understanding their units at first. I was kind of confused on what their unit was about, because the main issue I noticed that they were struggling with was deciphering a problem from a social issue, and I didn't really understand it myself. So like I said, I just kind of had to nod and be like, yep, sounds good, when in reality I don't really think I was giving them proper advice. But after a couple weeks, I definitely had a good grasp of it and was able to help them. Some accomplishments. So I feel like I was really able to get to know some of these students, especially a couple students in her humanities classes, because I really got to sit down with them, talk to them, understand their personalities, what would help them learn best. So I really feel like I was able to get through to a couple of those students. I was also lucky enough to sit on different classes. So for example, you can't really see it, but this is Miss Grillo, Deborah Jean Grillo. I had her as a Spanish teacher in 8th grade. My older brother also had her, and I love her. So she invited me to sit in on 2 of her classes. One of them was a 7th grade class, another one was an 8th grade class. I think it was awesome, just because it was a completely different subject. I would say with that subject, with Spanish, she was able to have a lot more fun with it. You know, she would throw around balls in her room and have the kids like say what the verb meant in English, and it was definitely a clear difference between like a Spanish class and an English class, as well as the age difference. You could see how the 8th graders were definitely a lot more comfortable. You know, they cared about the rules a lot less, I would say. They felt a little bit more independent, and I'd say a little bit more rebellious. And the 6th graders, who definitely stuck to the rules, you know, got into class, did what they needed to do instead of messing around in the back. Another accomplishment I feel like I had was being able to utilize my own skills. I'm obviously still a student myself, so being able to use skills that I've learned that help me learn best, help me understand best, make it more relatable to their learning, I feel like I was really able to use my own skills and help them understand. Some skills I developed, time management was definitely one. I know that this past school year, when I still went to class and stuff, definitely racked up a couple tardies. Sorry, Miss Burns. But I feel like this internship really helped me be on time, and I was like, all right, I need to be there in the classroom at 9:30. Like, I can't just be pulling into the parking lot at 9:30, so it really pushed me to be on time. Another thing was technology. So like I previously mentioned, I utilized this site called Padlet, which I had never used before, maybe like once with a teacher during COVID, like on a Google Meet, but I had never created one myself. So it was a really awesome tool that I could use online. I'm also in the process of creating an activity for the students right now using Padlet, so that's really great. I also felt as though I had to be a little bit more creative with my wording, with how I was explaining things, just so that they could understand and get a better idea, because, you know, some of them, they don't really quite get things as quick as the other students, whereas other students just fly through and they're on their own pace and they're completely fine on their own. Another skill I developed was interacting with the older kids. That was one of the main reasons why I went into this internship. I wanted to kind of learn their mannerisms, see how they behaved, you know, how they listened. And it's definitely a clear, like, difference between talking to my fifth graders or fourth graders or second graders at work where, you know, they're telling me their favorite animal, like they're telling me their house code because they feel so comfortable with me. And the older kids, you know, they're just kind of there. They don't really, especially, I know it's different in a school setting, but they're just kind of there, you know. Their thinking is a lot deeper than my elementary school kids, which I actually really liked. But that was something to keep in the back of my mind in case I did want to switch to secondary. How this internship will aid me in my future. So I still plan on double majoring in elementary and special education at Providence College in the fall. But I also did realize that the schedule difference plays a big part between secondary and elementary education, because with secondary, obviously, there are periods, you don't see the kids every single day, whereas elementary, you're basically with the students the entire time. So that was a big difference that I do think I should consider for my future. But I also just did realize that my passion does lie with the younger kids. I just feel like I get along with them well. I think that I have a really great time myself, like working with them, making it fun. You know, they still believe in Santa and the Tooth Fairy and stuff like that, and I think that's kind of fun for me. So I will still be continuing elementary education. Thank you. Are there any questions? Michaela?
Were there any students that you got to know on like a deeper level than just a teacher?
Yeah, so there was this one kid, he was in the humanities class, and he was super funny. My only problem with him was that he just loved to talk and tell me about, so for example, his humanities project, they got to choose their own topics that they were passionate about. He chose recycling, and he would just keep talking to me about recycling, how he recycles at home, and it was really great, but I was trying to help him kind of condense his information, because a lot of times he had trouble paraphrasing and just writing word for word what the article said, and stuff like that. So it was kind of hard, like, keeping him on topic. But I feel like I got pretty close with him just because I worked with him multiple times. And they have, like, periods that I would say are an hour and a half every single day. So being able to sit with him for an entire period, I'd say I've definitely grown a closer relationship with him. Gavin?
How do you feel about the current middle school scheduling system with ASU?
Okay, I'm honestly kind of confused about it. We didn't really have ASA when I was there. I think we had like Flex or something like that, which was fine, but it's a little bit weird. I want to say, like, I don't really understand it. But I think it was even weirder when I was there because my English teacher also taught us social studies. Like, we didn't have a separate teacher for that, but now they do. I don't know. I think that the blocks might be a little bit too long, but I guess they're used to it, so it doesn't really matter.
And second question, most exciting experience, most interesting experience with a middle schooler?
Okay, so on my first day, I was just sitting in on these book clubs, listening to their thoughts. I didn't really know what I was doing. I was a little bit nervous. And there's this one kid, and he just kept sharing and sharing and sharing his ideas, and he was just talking over people. And I previously know him from the Boys and Girls Club, so I know how he is. And then when I tried to, like, reel him in a little bit, he started, like, cussing at me. So that was probably my most interesting experience. Any other questions? Ms. Burns?
How did it feel to be on the other side? Like, you've been a student for all this time, and then all of a sudden, like, On a Friday, you were a student here, and on a Monday, you were like in charge there.
It was so weird, like, especially because I went to West Shore, so I was like, during lunch, I'd be like sitting down, like eating lunch next to like my 6th grade science teacher, and they'd be talking about like their kids' lives and like how, like a bird that they saw like the night before, and it was just weird because I just like didn't, it was kind of like I was behind the scenes of like a part that I've never seen before, you know, they were talking about how the new schedule for next year was coming out and like stuff like that, and that was just stuff that I didn't really consider as a student because I feel like, you know, as a student you just kind of expect those things to come out, and I feel like personally I didn't realize the work that goes into it behind the scenes that the teachers do, so that was really cool to see. Rags?
I may have missed it, but what was your most challenging thing?
I think my most challenging thing was trying to balance the different types of students, learning their personalities, how they learn best, and how I can aid them. Like, some of them, they were fine. They just need, like, a little help rewording a sentence, and that was it. But, like, I think the biggest challenge was that some of them were very quiet, whereas other of them were kind of oversharers, and it was kind of hard for me to kind of, like, tone them down and, like, get them to, like, just kind of quiet down so that other people can contribute. But I feel like by now I'm pretty good at that, and I feel like I know how to kindly tell them to be quiet. Any other questions? Gavin?
Were there any interesting technology issues that you heard of occur during your time in the internship?
Honestly, no. I think that I wasn't really part of like the library, like I didn't really go in there, but I know that they have really great staff there that could help them, but other than them forgetting their Chromebook charger or like forgetting their Chromebook in general, there weren't really any issues. Like Miss Aliberti seemed to always have an extra Chromebook charger in hand, so not really technological issues, but I even think that sometimes they're a little bit more technologically advanced than me, which is weird. But any other questions? Thank you.
So, hi everyone, my name is Lindsay Conlon, and I will be attending the University of Miami in the fall as a health science major on the pre-medicine track. My internship site was Ronay Physical Therapy and Sports Medicine, and it is located in Orange, Connecticut, and here to the right is a picture of the building. My site supervisor was Jim Ronay, or he still is, and he holds a master's degree in physical therapy from Springfield College, and he has been in practice as a licensed physical therapist for 30 years. And he is on the right-hand side of the picture, and on the left is Colleen, who is another physical therapist at his business. Why I chose this site? So I went to physical therapy there when I had an injury, so I was already familiar with him, and I knew it would be a great place to go, and since I already had a connection with him. And I thought it would be a good way to get patient experience and immerse myself into the medical field, since I definitely want to do that in the future. And then down here are a few photos. So the first one is a picture of some of the machines, like the leg press, a leg extension, leg curls, some of the medicine balls used. That next is a stationary bike, which patients of all ages use. They can be young or old. It's a great way for people to finish off their appointments there, just to get get their heart rate up and get moving. Next is the leg press, which again people use for a number of different reasons that can be caused by a couple injuries like a torn ACL or meniscus. Lastly is a machine used for leg extensions and leg curls, so you bring the leg all the way forward or bend it down to again increase the range of motion for someone. So the business of the site, so patients are under the supervision of a licensed physical therapist who specializes in exercise, movement, and performance. So they are well trusted with everybody, and they definitely know what they're doing. And patients come in and they have an initial evaluation and to assess their problem or injury to see exactly what's going on and how to help them and to ensure a successful outcome and how many appointments they'll need in the future and what should be done with them if they need to go to a doctor still or like get an MRI or something along those lines. And then after the initial evaluation, they go to one-on-one sessions that are typically 30 minutes or longer. It really just depends on their injury again. And below are some photos of some equipment used. So these balls can be used for people with hand injuries. Also, this hand web in the middle can be used. The blue and the red they have different, like a different tension, so people can move like back and forth between them, and the hand's gonna move differently. And then to the right is some bands that can be used. The yellow is the lightest band, meaning like it can move the easiest. And then the green is the next one up that's a little bit harder, and the blue is the hardest. So prior expectations, I was expecting to help patients with their exercises after the physical therapist taught me them, and also cleaning equipment, sorting paperwork, and observing the physical therapists and just watching how they help their patients. To the right is a picture of a lacrosse player who tore her ACL. I became very friendly with her during my time there, and she was just someone that I was like excited to see throughout the day. In the photo, she's doing a band exercise to squat and increase her range of motion, and she was about 5.5 weeks post-op in these photos, and she was out of her long brace that went on her leg. And I talked to her a lot about like even like her summer plans, and this picture was taken during her last appointment at physical therapy here, because she's moving down to Florida and she'll continue her physical therapy down there. Responsibilities, so completing the cleaning checklist, which is here, right here. Some things like stocking the booths would be with the laundry, so I had to be on top of the laundry throughout the day, and the washing machine would take like a half an hour, so I have to like be mindful of the time so I would know when to take it out, because if the booths weren't stocked, then there wouldn't be towels and pillowcases to put on the tables and to help the physical therapist, and just everything would move a lot slower if they weren't stocked. And then bring patients out of the waiting room, so I would call their name. I would look at, there would always be a schedule, and I would have to stay on top of it, and every time you brought in a patient, you had put a check marks just so everyone else would be aware, the other interns and the aide there would know that they already had been brought in. And then mainly observing the therapist and asking questions if I don't understand what they're doing, because there was definitely some injuries which I had no idea how they were helping them and like what kind of surgery they had or anything like that. My accomplishments were learning new exercises and being able to teach patients them. So again, I had learned like some new exercises, and I was able to show the patients how to do them and the right techniques. And I also saw how healthcare professionals evaluate and treat patients, which will help me in my future. I definitely want to be into the medical field, so it's a great opportunity for me. Some challenges were going to work daily, as it is not easy as it seems. It was different than school and coming in, and also being on my feet all day since I had practice after my internship, and also learning all the tasks assigned to me throughout the internship. My first day, I felt kind of overwhelmed with all like the cleaning tasks, something as simple as like pushing like the laundry machine valve forward so like the water would run, because you have to turn it off every night or else it could freeze or like an issue can occur, and so I need to remember that, like which way it needs to be pushed, and simple things. So my skills developed. I learned how to manage my time spent with patients and completing the cleaning tasks again, just like doing everything in a timely fashion. Working as a team with the other 2 interns. There were 2 other interns from Amity, so we sometimes were on the same time schedule, so we had to work together to do the laundry or complete the cleaning checklist. And then maintaining a cheerful attitude throughout the day. I always had to be happy and excited to see the patients, because if the patient was down, I didn't want to be upset with them. I wanted to be someone that could help them, and like since they were there to be helped, I wanted to be encouraging. And then the experience will help me with my future plans, because it provided me with a better understanding of the human body. I definitely learned how some body parts work, or more like in depth how they work. and I was able to converse one-on-one with patients, which would help me definitely in the future when I evaluate them. And I was able to add that opportunity to my resume, which will definitely be helpful in getting a future job. So my immediate plans, after I graduate, I will head down to Miami at the beginning of August to start the next chapter of my life, and I will learn, as a health sciences major, I will learn the information necessary for medical school, which I hope to attend at the University of Miami, their Miller School of Medicine, and which will put me on the track to becoming a doctor, which I think this opportunity really helped me, and I learned a lot of interesting information. Any questions? Yes.
So my question is, what do you feel like you learned in the classroom that you were able to apply to your internship? Any class.
Well, definitely human anatomy. I learned about the body, and any science, like in AP biology this year, I learned, again, there was a unit on like the anatomy of the body, and I think I definitely like brought those skills in the or information that I learned, and I was able to help. And also, like, since I already went to physical therapy, I had seen other injuries and injury like myself, which a lot of people came in with. It was common injuries. Yeah. Yes.
Did you say what type of doctor you wanted to be?
No, so I hope to figure that out during my time in medical school and see.
In any direction or not really?
Not yet. I mean, I think dermatology is interesting, but again, I'll have to see.
Another question is, Ronay, like, so does he deal with just athletes?
So
Rehab, and like, how do you get referred to him? Like, if you go to Connecticut Orthopedics, they usually don't send you to Ronay, right? Or they do?
I think it really just depends. I mean, I think definitely doctors will like feed to him, like feed their patients to him. He's very well known, like especially in the town of Orange. Like, and I think he has he has 3 kids, and like one of them went to Yale, so he works with some of the Yale sports teams to help the patients with or the players with their physical therapy. So he has like connections everywhere. Just recently he went to the Olympics and he was helping with the USA team. So he's very well known, and people like you like you.
Athletes, or is it?
No, it's people of all ages and like with all injuries.
Okay.
What was your favorite part?
I think connecting with the patients, because after I met them a couple times, like I would recognize them, and then I would be able to like talk with them about their recovery process, or just like simple things. Like this woman was talking about like gardening, so the next time I saw her, I would ask her how it went and see like what's new in her life. So just connecting with the patients.
Is there an injury that's typically like harder to come back from? Like after you started to learn all the different like injuries and how to treat them, is there one that you found like, oh wow, if it's like an ACL, that's worse than a meniscus, or like, did you learn any of that kind of stuff?
Well, with those two, so an ACL tear, like the recovery process is about 9 months long, and whereas a meniscus can only, it really depends on like how bad you tear it, but it can be like 4 to like 6 months, so it's really not as bad. But with your meniscus, you can't, like for the first month or so, you can't bend it past, your knee past 90 degrees, whereas like in an ACL you can. So they really just depend, like it depends on the injury. So one, you can, with an ACL tear, you can do more like initially, but it's just a longer recovery because it's more fragile, I guess.
Like the worst.
Oh, like the worst injury?
Yeah.
Like in your knee or like anywhere in the body?
Anywhere. I don't know anything about this, I'm just curious.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that's definitely a bad injury since you can't really walk.
Yeah.
You're on crutches for about a month, I would say. But there were a bunch of like ankle and wrist injuries as well. But I think those aren't as bad because you can do stuff every day to treat those. Whereas with an ACL or meniscus tear, you have to you're on like a strict like schedule of like how the recovery process is supposed to go.
So I did my internship at Total Mortgage Arena. Hi, my name is Hailey Boyle. I will be attending Coastal Carolina University in the fall as a business major, and as of yesterday, I decided I will be studying business management with a minor in entrepreneurial management. About Total Mortgage Arena, so it's formerly known as Webster Bank Arena. That's how most of you might know it as. It's a 10,000-seat multi-purpose arena in downtown Bridgeport, Connecticut. It's home to the Bridgeport Islanders, and not only them, it's also home to many of the Fairfield, University of Fairfield teams, and Sacred Heart teams also practice there. It hosts sports games, concerts, rallies, and many more events, and holds practices. There's a lot of things. It's a really big arena that a lot of things go on at. Who was my site supervisor? So Tara Kelly was my site supervisor. She graduated Southern Connecticut University with a Bachelor's in Science and Sports Management degree. She has been at the arena for 4 years now. Her current position is the Director of Amateur Hockey Sales and Programming. She used to be the manager, and before that she was just the group sales representative, so she's moved up a lot in the past 3 years, and that's who was my supervisor. And she used to go here, so some of you may know. Why I chose Total Mortgage Arena? So I plan on majoring in business. I hope to own my own business one day. But for most of my life growing up, I always wanted to do something in the sports world. So work with some kind of sports team. So when the internship the internship opportunity came up, I thought it was a good idea to see if I wanted to stay in the sports world. And honestly, what I did was a lot of business side of the sports world, so that could be something I'm interested in too. But and I knew Tara growing up, so when I found out that she was working with the Bridgeport Islanders, I thought that was really cool, so I thought it was a good way for me to see if I wanted to do something in sports, so that's why I chose it. My expectations, I didn't really have many expectations going in. I really didn't have many at all. I really didn't even fully understand what Tara's job was, so I really just thought it was going to be mostly me walking around in the office with her, maybe seeing some cool sports things like hockey players, or they have a lot of concerts there, so maybe seeing stuff like that. But I just figured I was going to see what her day was like, and I didn't really know what I was going to be doing for my work. What were my responsibilities? So I did a lot of research and documenting information about every youth sports league in Connecticut, all the baseball, hockey, lacrosse leagues. I found a lot of information for all of those. And then I also had to contact league presidents and fundraising coordinators. So for some of them, if they only had an email, I had to email them. But for a lot of them, I would have to call them and ask about what fundraisers they were having or what kind of sports packages deals they had, was something that Tara wanted me to find out. So I also had to do that, which was cool because I had to go out of my way to call professional or actual business people. So that was cool. Oh, sorry. I also had to create and design promo nights and fundraiser ideas. So for those, I did wine tastings. I did a skate-a-thon for the hockey team. So just, fundraisers like that. I just drew up a poster on Google Slides. My accomplishments, I was able to learn how to contact league directors and heads of administration. I didn't really have much direction going into it. It wasn't she gave me phone numbers or emails. I had to find all of them on my own, and it was just random people. I had to find the Pomperog president phone number and reach out to him. So that was something cool that I thought I didn't expect to be doing, and I thought it was cool that I could figure out how to do it. I learned how the marketing and sales aspect runs from the business side of things, because that's a lot of what Tara was doing, so what she had me do, that helped me with that. I learned about what goes into planning big nights like fundraisers, wine tastings, and meet and greets. When I had to make up the fake promotional nights, she would tell me the things I would need to do with what I would need to put on the poster, and then we would have to find where it would be and what we would do to draw people in. So that's where the meet and greet came in with we would do it with the Bridgeport Islander players, and that would draw people in. And then another accomplishment I had was my first assignment, which was a huge assignment, and I was very happy when I finally finished it. I completed 20 pages worth of information from every single youth league youth little league and hockey program in Connecticut. So that took me an extremely long time. And when I sent it to her, she was not expecting me to do 20 pages. I did 10 pages of each, and I was really happy when I finished that. That was an accomplishment of mine. Challenges I had, so I had to do part of my internship from home because it was the playoffs when I first started, and she said it was crazy there. Like, everyone was running outside of the office trying to sell tickets, and it was just really chaotic there, so she wasn't prepared for me to go in then, so I had to do part of it from home. So it was challenging because I had less access to asking her questions, like, right on the dot, and, like, if it was just, like, a simple question but something I didn't know the answer to, I wouldn't want to go out of my way to, like, call her, like, interrupt her during the busy, like, playoff season. So I just had to figure it out myself. And then finding all the information was also very challenging because, again, there wasn't really directions for me to do it. I just had to go on their websites and find out, but they were just like youth league websites, so they weren't very organized websites. So if I had to find the fundraising coordinator for every single team. So some people didn't list their fundraising coordinator. So that would be when I would have to call, like, the president usually, and then I would have to ask him. And that was more time consuming than just being able to find it on the website. So that was also another challenge I had. Skills I developed, I think I developed problem solving because of things like I just said. Like, I couldn't find the fundraising coordinator on the website, so I made it my job to have to call the league to find it out myself, because everything I had to do, she said she was going to use those next year's for the teams. Like, they were going to be using my information for all the teams that they needed to promote. So I wanted to make sure I had all the fundraising coordinators for them because I thought that was probably important. I also thought I developed self-start / time management because when I wasn't supervised, I had to get up on my own and complete my work. I had to not use my days as like a summer day where I didn't have to go to school. I would have to sit down at my kitchen table, or sometimes one time I went to the Walnut Beach Coffee House and did all my work there. Went to Starbucks one time. So I needed to, like, set up my area, sit down, do all my work, and make sure I was focused and on task. So that was something that I developed. And I also developed confidence in this internship because I was really very originally nervous to have to call and contact people. The email wasn't, like, the scary part, but I wanted to get things done quick, so I was like, I think I need to call them, and I was really, like, scared to do that. But after a few calls, I was very comfortable with it. I was like, hi, my name is Hailey Boyle. I'm calling on behalf of Total Mortgage Arena. So I thought I made them take me more seriously. I didn't tell them I was a high school student, so I was just talking to them normally, so that made me more confident at the end of the day. How this internship will help me in the future, I think it definitely gave me experience working in a business environment for the couple of days I did get to go into the office, and I also developed new contacts that could potentially help me in the future when I graduate and am ready to enter the business world. I'm not sure where I'll be when I graduate or what I'll be doing, but something good to have in my back pocket. And it also gave me the opportunity to work in a marketing department because marketing is a big part of business, and it's some classes I already taken here, so I'll definitely be taking some in college. My immediate future plans are I'm going to graduate high school, and then I'm going to attend Coastal Carolina University in the fall, and then I'll be studying business for the next 4 years. I'll be studying business management and hopefully learning how to create my own business. Thanks for listening. Any questions? Michaela?
Yes, I know you had to work at home and at the place sometimes. Which one did you prefer? Did you like the at-home days better? Or the
Well, it definitely was very nice staying at home. And, like, not having to waste my gas or something, or also, like, Kari would have to take the car, so we didn't have to deal with arguing over that. So that was nice, but it was also really cool going into the office because, it's Webster Bank Arena. Like, that's cool being there. It's, like, that was a nice place to go. So I think I probably liked the office better, even though when I went in, the playoffs were over, so it wasn't anything crazy. Like, everyone was very mellow. Everyone just worked very hard for the past 10 months. So nothing huge was going on. But, like, one day they were setting up for, like, a Lee Brice concert so that was cool, like, seeing like the speakers come in and stuff like that. But so yeah, I guess I like the office better. Yeah, Lindsay?
Do you know what your supervisor did with the information you gathered about all the lacrosse, baseball, and
Well, she says that she didn't do anything with it yet, but she said that for next year they have to reach out to all the youth leagues to see if they could find any business with them sponsoring them or anything. So they said she'll be using that information next year for the next season, incoming next season. Yes.
You said that, my original question would be, what was the most challenging thing you had to do? And I think it was making phone calls.
Yeah.
So was there one that really stuck out that maybe didn't go the way you wanted to?
A phone call?
Yeah, if there was anything crazy?
Yeah. Okay, nothing crazy, but sometimes I would call and they'd be just be like, they would just be like, we don't have a fundraising coordinator, we're just a little league, we don't, and I'm like, okay. So I wouldn't know what to do for that. I ended up having to talk to Tara about that. She said that it was okay because not all the places had fundraising coordinators, but that just made me feel a little embarrassed when they were like, we don't have that going on here. So yeah, but nothing too crazy. Yeah. Yes.
Do you know what kind of business you want to run in the future?
No, I'm not really sure, but I want it to be big. And, but no, I'm not really sure, but I'm really excited to learn about it. And they have a fellowship at Coastal that you do for your junior and senior year that I'm definitely going to be a part of, and it has a 99% coming out of with the job. So I'm really excited to join that, but I'm not sure what I'm looking for yet. Yeah. Yes.
I guess after interning now at a place that does sports and business, did it open up your kind of perspective to think about a business that could combine the two?
Okay, yes, definitely, because I love sports, and I think if I did a job, something with sports, I would enjoy going into my job every day. So I really think I could definitely be interested in that, but I also think that it makes it a lot harder with all the sports teams than a certain a certain communications business or something. So it is something I'd definitely be interested in, but I think I'm going to stick on the regular business track for now and see if maybe sports management classes one day, something like that comes into play.
Okay, this is about my experience as an intern at a small business called chemscope. This is chemscope. This is the main office, and here they have a field office place where people take all their paperwork. They do office things in there. They also have a lab in there. It's a two-floor building, but the top floor is just an attic for my dad's office, and then they also have a basement for storing. This is the barn. It's not actually a barn, it's just red, but that's where they take classes. So they actually teach a lot of certification classes because to work with asbestos and lead and everything like that, you need to be certified. So what they do there is they probably hold 5 classes a week with a bunch of recertifications and certifications. And then this is just where the customers go inside this building. A little bit about me. I'm Michaela Sullivan. I'm going to the University of South Florida, and I'm 18 years old. So chemscope is a small business, and as I said before, what they do is they go out in the field. People, if they're wanting to do construction or wanting to check for lead, asbestos, other poisonous substances, they go out, they test for it in the field, and so there's a bunch of field workers. They leave the building, they schedule, deal with customers, they come back, they bring their samples back, and then they bring it to the lab, and at the lab they get to tested whether or not it has asbestos or not, or lead. They also do other things like air quality, mold. We didn't learn too much about that. Mostly we focused on lead and asbestos. And then, yeah, this is going over how chemscope works. So if they're doing remodeling, reconstruction, then the customers will reach out. So then they will go out and test for lead, asbestos, bring it back. They also have a drop off. Ellie's distracting me. They have a drop off box where customers can bring the lead samples to, and then they'll just test them before the day ends. My supervisor, this is Gina. She is the office manager. She started working when she was in high school, not as office manager, just as a part-time gig. And then she got her degree at Southern Connecticut College, and then she got upgraded to be a office manager. She's been there around the same time as my dad, and I've known her like a very long time. Why I chose chemscope. I am going undecided for college, so I have honestly no idea what I want to do. I know my sisters and my dad obviously work in the business field, so that could be an interest in me. So I wanted to get some exposure with that. Also, I took environmental this year, and it's an environmental business, so that could give me some work experience. And also will just help narrow down some options for me. Prior expectations. So my sisters used to work there. All they did was scan and shred. It was kind of a boring job, but I just expected something to put on my resume, and I expected a bunch of like just internship jobs that nobody else has time for, just like small things. My experience. So on the first day, what we did was we actually had to get certified to be around lead and asbestos because we could risk health effects because there is obviously some around. So what we did was we had like long videos. I think there was a 90-slide presentation all about the harms, how to protect yourself, how to clean up asbestos, just anything you would need to know. And then we got certified for those. Both me and Kari passed with 190%. So that's pretty good. 90 on the lead, 100 on the asbestos. Okay, so some of my responsibilities were organizing files. I'll get into all of these in further detail, but organizing files, landscaping, office cleaning, organizing, and painting the shed. Okay, so this is scraping the paint. What we did, this is the shed. Inside it has all the files, but as you can see here, the paint is like very, rough. So what we did was we had to take all the loose paint chips off. So we just had these tiny little sandpaper things, and we just scraped the entire shed for a day. We put on these hazmat suits, which I thought it was fun just for the looks. We had prom the day after, so we didn't want to get any paint on our spray tans. So we put on these hazmat suits, and Kari's wearing the N95 mask because my dad didn't want us to breathe in the paint chips. And then we've got the sunglasses to top off the look. And then that's just a full view of Kari scraping at the paint. Also, we had files. So that shed over here is actually filled wall to wall with files, and these files are very big. They go from each month that the business has been working, so they have to keep files for 30 years because lead and asbestos can lead to health problems. And so if someone gets cancer or any health issues, then we need to go back and make sure we have the files for it. So they need to keep a paper copy of it. And so it started in 2000s, and they're just everywhere. There's no rhyme and reason. My dad is a very unorganized person, unfortunately. And so they're also you can see how long they go. And then this is just what the files. So this is when I dropped the file on one of the light bulbs that was there. Moving these files was very time consuming and difficult because they were heavy. There was not a lot of room, and there were a lot of spiders. So this was probably one of my least favorite tasks to do because it was kind of just very draining all in all. Then we have painting the shed. So we went to Home Depot a lot. This is Kari at Home Depot, and this is actually the worker that helped us get these paints. So what we did was we had like this long roller so we could reach the top. Kari had the long one, I had the shorter one. So I would get like more the middle, she would get like the top parts and the bottom parts. And honestly, it was a lot about teamwork. We learned to work together, and I know she said this before in her presentation, but we were kind of away from the office a lot, so I wasn't around Gina or my dad that often because they had other things to do. So when we came across a problem like we couldn't find any soil or something like that, we would kind of have to figure it out ourselves instead of asking my dad. We didn't want to be a bother, so we did work together. We worked together really well, luckily, but we learned how to work with each other's personalities and everything like that. And then we went to gardening. This was definitely my favorite part. So my dad, before the office, it looked kind of dull. He said there were tree trunks cut down, so we had to work removing all the dead weeds. So this was something to conquer. It doesn't look that thick, but boy, oh boy, was it in there. We had to dig very deep, and that alone, like this area, at least was 2 hours of work, which doesn't seem like. And so then we planted. This is our garden successful, and then this is a week later after it died, unfortunately. Sorry. But yeah, so this was just like, it showed us like the visual aspect of running a business. I mean, not a lot of people think just like a garden in front matters a lot, but it helps like when people drop off their, this is the drop box, when people drop off their samples, it's just like it makes the business like look so much nicer outside. And we added more plants, and the garden no longer looks like that, but that was just Okay, so the conclusion, we learned a lot about what goes into a small business. Like, you wouldn't think that running a business means painting a shed, doing gardening, but someone has to do it. And so that means there's a lot that goes on. We also learned that organization means a lot too. When it gets chaotic, it's hard to come back from it. So if you have a way of organizing that can help your business run so much smoother, just knowing where everything is, which chemscope, a lot of the times we didn't know where everything is. So we tried to put a method to the madness. I also got to know how to create a garden. I mean, I can use this for the rest of my life. I plan to have one at my house, and if I ever have my own business or place of work, then I can know how to upkeep a garden and how much visuals play into a business outlook. I gained the knowledge of asbestos and lead, their effects, and also I just would never know anything about this company if I did not have this experience. This was all on just a random residential neighborhood. I just feel like I could have gone my whole life without knowing that people need to be testing for asbestos and lead, and there's just so many random businesses that go into everyday life. Any questions? Yeah.
How was it like working with your co-intern?
I enjoyed it. I think it helped the day go by faster. Yeah, I think it made it a lot easier. I mean, it also added some entertainment for sure. I liked it. Yeah.
What was your favorite thing to do?
I definitely liked the garden. I just loved the look of it, like the plants. I loved going to Home Depot, getting the plants, bringing them back, planting them, seeing how much it could change an area. Like before it was just weedy, viney. Now it's just like a nice, cute little garden. I like it. Yeah.
Did you have any conflict with your co-intern?
Not much, no. I mean, deciding what to do every day was a lot of work, but it was just it wasn't conflict, it was more just what to do, trying to figure out, Mm-hmm.
What skill do you think you'll be taking with you to college next year? What's the big thing you got as a takeaway?
Okay, I mean, working with the people in the office, I didn't see them too much, but when we were inside, cleaning, organizing, just, regular conversations just in the office. I also think probably organization and time management. Getting there on time, being productive the entire time, and like just designating that time to be productive.
So your dad was your boss?
No, Gina was.
So did she give you these tasks?
Gina and my dad did. My dad told Gina to give the tasks, and then also Gina had a full schedule, so sometimes we would talk to her, sometimes we would talk to my dad. Depending.
Very meaningful things that you did.
Yeah.
I hope you really, like, I'm thinking about my daughter who's a year younger than you, one of them.
Mhm.
And she couldn't scrape a wall.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Or do any of that, I'm serious.
I mean, the
And
tasks
really,
did
like,
seem stupid, but
ask her to do stuff like that with me at times to
Mhm.
make her learn how to do these things.
yeah. And yeah, just like painting. It's a skill that if I ever have a house, I'll need to know how to do. Need to know where to get the supplies, what supplies to get.
How did you get that root out?
What? Oh, so for a while, the shed didn't have much supplies. It had a shovel, a pickaxe, a bigger pickaxe. So at the beginning, we were just trying to shovel it deep and pickaxing. We were working up a sweat, but then we decided to call my dad. And we were just looking for a knife. So we got as deep down as we could. It was probably like an arm's length hole, and the root was still very. So we just decided to saw it out and added more soil to the top of it. Just did what we could. All right.